mind is, do I feel pressured enough to open up the execute onto my Druid of the Claw this time? I guess it's not a big deal, because if he's going to execute, he's most likely going to do it regardless. Although with Slam in hand, drawing into an execute, there could potentially be a clean kill onto this Druid of the Claw.
The execute will be opened up either way.
One way or the other.
But you're considering how much value you're willing to potentially let him get from this Acolyte of Pain. I think it's totally fine to this turn just go for the kill on the Acolyte of Pain, because you will put up such a huge board that you do not need to pressure him over that many turns anyway.
And Death's Bite on curve,
yeah.
Almost always a wonderful thing. You'll still be able to get a clean kill onto the Druid of the Claw as he draws into, as he has the slam into the Fiery War Axe, but he invites some damage.
A clean kill here. Now on the other hand, I wouldn't mind all that much to see this charge, but then again, just putting it in taunt and protecting the Pilot Treader from the Fiery War Axe is probably the smarter move.
To keep the Pilot Treader on the field as long as possible. There actually is kind of that awkward spot where later in the game, Pilot Shredder could open up a minion that spawns more patrons, but we're still talking about turn 5, no sign of a Thaurissan yet being played. We know it's in the hand, but still an early turn when it comes to consideration for that. And now you're left with this situation where, without really overextending in terms of using a removal, don't have a way to deal with this Druid of the Claw. Yeah,
these are the defensive turns for Patron Warrior, and if they don't have the appropriate answer against Druid at like the right time, they might just get run over, and I think that is exactly what we will see here, because I don't really see him, without drawing into something good, how he deals with this board.
Yeah, I was thinking about his options. I guess the turn has to start with a slam. That's your second slam, so it'll be done. Slam into Death's Bite, not possible with the mana. I told you could shield block, but then you're really looking like you're going to pass the turn. So it starts with the slam.
He's probably just gonna... Oh, he finds the execute. He picks it up. That's such a great draw. I think he would have to use the whirlwind if he didn't pick that up.
Clutch draw. He holds on to the whirlwind. That's going to be a free whirlwind as soon as next turn.
Yeah, that is absolutely one of the better... probably the best draw from his entire deck at that point.
Oh!
Here's something new. We haven't seen this from Taesang in any of his games last match, but he's running Black Knight. Seems like actually a great metagame choice with 8 of 8 players bringing Druid.
Druid, Handlock, both of them very much in the meta. Both of them present big taunts.
Several of the Druids have played Ancient of War too. Black Knight seems like it may be able to pose a comeback.
Now I kind of want to go watch the VOD of his last Druid game and just see about some of the situations where he could have really made things work with Black Knight, because we did not see this even in the hand. He's considering playing it as a 4/5 body. Not super mana efficient, but he doesn't have any other plays, and you know, maybe he finds one taunt in this deck. You know, maybe he finds a single taunt coming through from the Patron Warrior. I mean, Reynad was trying a list that was running Sludge Belchers, but realistically, no taunt likely to be in this deck, barring a single Dread Corsair, so...
Yeah. No. Sometimes you just have to accept that your Shieldwine Yeti costs 6.
And look, when it comes to hiding information, the stream sees it, therefore, there's no way to hide the Black Knight anymore. So might as well just play the 4/5. Yeah, you're right. A very overcosted, it's a freezing trapped Chillwind Yeti with some cool art.
But it doesn't look too bad here. It looks like it's gonna get beaten down by the Armsmith and the Death's Bite. Team up and get it down.
But this is why people like Jordan in this matchup, is that he's down to 15 health. Like, he's already getting to the point where, you know, Innovate into a combo would have been lethal. We know that's not possible, but he's already getting to some of these emergency life total situations, and oh boy, it's drawing time.
Yeah, 15 health and just get to play. You're never unhappy when you get to play an Ancient Lore on an empty board. There's just...
You're pretty ecstatic
so good
when it's on an empty board and you have 30 health.
Yes. We see Deckizz here can go for 4 patrons, which is like one of the... What you're looking for to do in this matchup is just create a bunch of patrons, because if you create enough patrons, Druid has no clean Master Removal spell, they have no Hellfire, no Brawl, nothing like that. So enough patrons will take over the game.
We know that he has a clear on it.
Yeah, but then again, at this point, he also has to hit the Ancient Lore if he wants to do that, and then he's down to 10 health with a minion on board as against Druid.
Alright, let's look at this. He decides not to take your line of play, doesn't have an execute, so he's leaving the 5 damage on the field. That's already going to be 10 damage.
It's the same amount of damage anyway. He's at 3 more health, but there's 3 more power on the board, you know.
That's true.
But this trades less efficiently into patrons.
So
which is what he's going for.
Taesang is frustrated. He has no lethal. Charge minion, but he's already used both Druid the Claw, so charge minion's pretty much gone out of the deck. There wasn't many draws. I guess swipe into Savage Roar would have been lethal. At the moment, he has 10 damage with hero power, but it's going to be a Wrath turn. It's going to be clearing the full health patrons. In fact, just clearing all the patrons, I guess.
I think he can Wrath the 2 free patrons, then he can Savage Roar, kill the 3/2 patron with the face, and go 7 to the and go 7 with the Ancient of Lore.
The 3/1 patron is not something you're worried about.
No, absolutely not. You can't grow more patrons out from that, so it's totally fine. Although your opponent can just trade the 3/1 into your 5/3 next turn, but you're still in a pretty good spot with the second Ancient of Lore, I'd say.
I mean, when you're talking about an Ancient Lore who at that point would have drawn 2 cards and also done 7 damage to the face, he's done his job.
Yeah. You could also go for this line and just play Darnassus. I'm very surprised if Ancient Lore actually doesn't go face, but I can see the merits of actually just clearing every single patron. The thing is, if you clear the first wave of patrons without making more patrons available, you're usually in a really good spot as the Druid.
So, I mean, the only play that sounds like in any semblance of winning play is Unstable Ghoul into Emperor Thorison. You know, you need some sort of protection. You're at 8 health, you're already 7 power on the board. I guess it'll be down to 2, but you'll at least be in a situation where the Darnassus Aspirant doesn't clear, at least cleanly, without hero power, the Unstable Ghoul. So, double Frothing Berserker at 2 mana, anything can potentially happen, but with no Whirlwind effect and just a lack of cards, there's just not many good options for Deckizz.
Yeah, also just if he sets up the Unstable Ghoul, it's not too unlikely that the Emperor Thorison will actually survive. So, I like that line of play.
Wow.
It's just the armor up, which goes for more of a bit of a longer game. Force of Nature at any point here will be lethal.
A lot of things are lethal. It's not one of them.
But it's a good one, right? I don't know if you necessarily play it this turn, but it will eventually be good for... I think if you just lower this turn, then I find it really easy to try to set up a good Loafer turn the following one.
Oh, there's double Frothing Berserker and an Unstable Ghoul. I'm getting war flashbacks. I know the potential, just a couple of choice draws of going off in a single turn. So while there is some simple lines of play, can you develop the Ancient of Lore? That's the question. Taesang, consistently our criticism of him was not taking risks, of playing too conservatively handlock, which led to him going 0-3. You can kind of understand the Lothar, but the winning play to me seems to be Ancient of Lore.
Yeah, I don't think
it gets you 2 cards closer to one of the many lethal choices you have in your deck.
He is playing it very safe again with the Loafer. Although with the Savage Roar in hand already, this makes some more sense, so I can get behind it. But I still think it's like more consistent, kinda, to play the Ancient of Lore and try to set up for Loafer the following turn. You're in no rush. You're never in a rush when your opponent is not pressuring you, and you have an Ancient of Lore in play. You can usually play those decks like really slow.
Is there a way for him to live? The answer looks like no.
I think the answer is no, yeah. This Unstable Ghoul training with low.
Let's watch this turn play out. I think you have to develop the Unstable Ghoul.
He's actually alive. At 9 life, it's 1 of lethal, but there are so many draws here.
Well, it's draw time.
Well, you could consider here starting with Ancient Lore or the Wild Growth. I think, seeing how Taesang has played this game, I would like to start with the Wild Growth. Even if you brick and don't find lethal from that, which is likely that you do, you can still afford to just play the Ancient of Lore.
2 Keepers of the Grove, still in the deck. Both of them represent lethal because Savage Roar would be 10 damage without any need for hero power.
Swipe, also an out. Second Savage Roar is an out. Force of Nature? Okay, Force of Nature would probably not do it.
Oh well, keep drawing, I guess. Oh, okay.
Oh, yes, goes for the... Oh, I guess he's just clearing the patrons here. And he knows he has an Ancient of Lore in hand. And I get behind this. Definitely, your opponent has used one of his patrons and both Frothing Berserkers. You know, the only card you can potentially lose to it is left in this deck is the second Grim Patron. And you need support for that patron. with only 2 cards in hand. I can get behind this.
I was ready to mount a defense or mount, I guess, a cross-examination on that one, but I think given the situation, you're right. I think it was too risky. Even though it looked good to go for a more aggressive line, this is probably the one time I can get behind a very defensive line of play.
Yeah.
From Taesang.
Deckizz is gonna draw cards here, but I don't really know what he's drawing into. Like,
He seems to be drawing into fatigue.
He is drawing for the second green patron, but he just doesn't have enough support to make a lot of patrons from that.
No sign of either of the Warsong commanders either. They've been firmly entrenched on the bottom of his deck.
There's the Force of Nature, but
It's not lethal.
No. I think this is... You could... Since you're going to just...
innovate Keeper of the Grove seems very likely.
Yeah.
Just given the fact that he's gone through most of his deck without finding one.
Yep. As predicted. There's the Keeper of the Grove.
At some point when you haven't seen one of a card you hold 2 copies of in your deck, you start drawing and you're very, very likely to find one. It's very unlikely that both Keeper of the Groves are your 29th and 30th cards respectively.
Absolutely. I could see the Force of Nature makes sense this turn since you have been going for like just run the Patron Warrior out of cards, but I get behind this.
There's just so many sources of lethal. So many top decks, both swipes, I believe, still available. He's gonna do the damage, not worried about an extra armor.
There's the War Song.
Oh boy, just what he needed.
Yeah.
Is he dead though? I don't think so.
This turn, no. Is it like does have any chance of winning this game? No.
No, he's looking for an active guard, and nope.
That is definitely lethal.
There is an active guard, and it's against Deckizz. The Hearthstone gods respond. Force of Nature Savage Roar into many, many damage.
This was just like not. This was just ending Deckizz suffering early by giving him that Savage Roar from the top.
Well, it sounds like you're saying in a roundabout way that euthanized has been Deckiz's attempts to win this game. Very merciful play from Taesang and the Hearthstone gods. I mean that he will take the first game. Comes into this match the favorite, even though Deckizz is a respected player who has played a lot of American tournaments. Taesang has had so much more live competition playing in OGN Hearthstone Masters and the Global Challenge playing against yourself, Orange.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who won that game?
I actually honestly do not remember, which is going to be really embarrassing if it actually was me that lost, because then it just seems like I'm avoiding the question. But I do not remember. I remember it was a very interesting match against Taesang though, and I was impressed by his play overall. And today I've seen him play. The handlock play seems like he could refine it a little bit, but other than that, we've seen solid play overall from Taesang.
Skillfully avoiding the factual question I asked you there.
Absolutely.
Don't even remember whether you win or lose matches. I'm disappointed, but I understand.
I play a lot of matches, okay?
That's fair. That's fair. So Deckizz, he's also going to be disappointed. He's on the back foot. He's dropped a game. He still has those 3 reliable decks. He still has a lot of hope to get back into this series. Up against it, though, against Taesang. But Taesang has to find a win somehow with the handlock. Do you leave yourself? I think you have to run the handlock now, because do you want... this sounds like a weird premonition thing, but do you want to pick up a win and then have to find a handlock victory in 3 consecutive games?
You will get very, very nervous if you're 2-0 up and you just have a handlock left.
Well, we'll see if it's the handlock this time. Got to win with it at some point. More action here at Apex. And he is going to hide the handlock.
Yeah.
He led with the handlock in the first series of the day, couldn't find a win, and then he was 2-1 up, couldn't find a win in 2 matches with the handlock. Potentially, unless he's getting ahead of himself, will have to find a handlock victory at some point if he can take down Patron Warrior with a control Paladin.
I actually start to dislike this, like him queuing up the Paladin now even less, because you know that your opponent still has Patron left, and that is like one of your easiest ways to get a win with the handlock. And if your opponent now manages to win the Patron versus Paladin, like your easy win with handlock is gone, and you have to like slog through a somewhat hard matchup.
Remember, he did lose that particular matchup you spoke about in the first game against Neilio. So it
was a very it was not your usual handlock versus patron match.
I agree. The
it
patron
was very
warrior won.
special. Yeah, exactly. Just by that fact, we can tell that it was not.
And Deckizz certainly has a high-quality hand. He's got a lot of options coming later. He's got the Thorison, Coin Thorison potentially on 5. Doesn't have the Grim Patron turn, but Consecration can sometimes put a dampener on that. He's got Acolyte of Pain coming on curve. It's feeling pretty good right now as Deckizz.
Yeah, for Taesang though, you're also like feeling pretty great. Having the Equality Consecrate is just such a big thing in this matchup because the patrons are actually something you can very easily lose to. But having Equality Consecration is a big thing to have an answer to those.
Yep. So a lot of Secret Paladin lists do run a single equality, but we're probably expecting double equality, just given the nature of this list. This list does not run Murloc Knight. That is how much of a control Paladin is. The time we saw Taesang pick up a victory, he literally grinded out right to the end, trying to find the damage to kill a Druid who was at 4, 5, 6, 7 health for the majority of the match. So it's going to be a very grindy game from Taesang, but you're right, he does have the answer to the patron turn.
At least we haven't seen Murloc Knight yet. I would actually be quite surprised if we didn't see it from this deck. Something we see now, which is happening just like this turn, is how beautifully Unstable Ghoul matches up versus the Shielded Meanabot.
Well, he doesn't really have any plays. He doesn't really have any good play.
He would have a great play if Deckizz played anything but Unstable Ghoul on his turn 2, but now
you know what else
everything
Unstable
looks
Ghoul does?
awkward.
Makes happy times for Acolyte of Pain. I mean,
oh yes.
I guess he likes pain, so I guess it is happy time. Being burned doesn't sound that great, but he seems to be into it.
He's that kind of guy.
Hey, I don't know. People are into what they're into. I don't ask questions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not judging. So, I would be very surprised if we didn't see the Acolyte of Pain coming down and then trade into the Knife Juggler.
I mean, that's the very standard line of play. Is there anything else he could do?
You're slightly sad because the Acolyte of Pain then just dies to the 2/2 Shield Meanabot, but you got a 2-card Acolyte of Pain, you got to answer his Knife Juggler very efficiently. There's not much to be sad about.
Exactly. It's one of those situations where you take it and run, I think.
Yeah.
If you are the Patron Warrior, whenever you get more than one card from Acolyte, you know, mission done.
Yeah, happy times. You just cycle through the deck as fast as possible, especially when you're trying to set up for a good Emperor hand. Just getting every single card possible is so important.
Neutral card drawn down, and wow, he's getting greedy.
Okay, I can get behind that. I certainly can. Although the problem is if this Unstable Ghoul dies to anything other than creature combat, it's likely that the Knife Juggler will survive.
So, I mean, Knife Juggler's a high priority removal target, to say the least. That's a very big understatement, to the point where if you see a Knife Juggler played on 2 and you have a slam, you probably just slam it even though you're not getting the card draw, right? You're just that threatened by Knife Juggler.
Absolutely. In matchups like Hunter, for example, I keep the slam in my starting hand if I don't have a War Axe, just because I want that answer to a potential turn 1 or turn 2 Knife Juggler.
So why is Deckizz being... I mean, the only word I have for it, this seems like a very greedy play.
It's a bit greedy, but it's also like what we talked about, that Unstable Ghoul, if it sends into the Knife Juggler, the Shield Meanabot just very cleanly trades into the Acolyte of Pain. This way, if Unstable Ghoul dies via creature combat, if the Knife Juggler hit from the Pilot Shredder, which I think is going to play eventually.
Consecration means both minions live, though.
Yeah, Consecration is totally fine to play here, but he's wasting his Equality Consecration that is so important. But I think it's a necessity here.
Keeps the board, that's the big thing. He wants to keep that board, keep pressuring, but you're right, he loses the clean kill for the Grim Patron turn. Happy news for him, no Grim Patrons in hand or coming anytime soon. Have to be careful here, let's look at the hand size. There is 9 cards in hand.
A great spot to be in when you have Emperor in hand, although the cards that get this kind of Emperor at the moment, if we were to coin it out next turn, is not great. Shield Block is definitely not the card you're looking to get discounted. Armorsmith is not great, and Fire Warrior is like, it's very cheap anyway.
There's been a lot of interesting new patron lists, and okay, when I say interesting patron lists, we're talking about maybe, there's what, 4 cards that can really be tweaked around. People have started to cut out Armorsmiths in a slower meta, go for Double Dread Corsair and other kind of hijinks. Where do you stand on kind of the fringe cards, which to me are Shield Block, Gnomish Inventor, and maybe one of your 2 slams, and then cards like cards like Dread Corsair? Like, what do you like, and where do you put your cuts when you're putting together a Patron Warrior?
Lately, the Patron Warrior I've been playing, it changes like depending on the meta. The Patron Warrior I've been playing lately is how it plays like 1 shield block, double Gnomish Inventor, double slam, and still plays the 2 Armor Smith and plays nothing like the Dread Corsairs. I'm not a big fan of the card myself, but with something like Druid being on the rise, I can see that card being pretty good, because when you're going for a patron turn, it's really nice to be able to throw out a taunt 2 to be able to protect your patron from creature combat.
And it's also 3 damage, so it's a bit more burst in a lot of cases when you're not feeling like you're getting much Armor Smith value. It feels like Armor Smith, you know, in an aggressive meta, it's right up there, but there are situations where Armor Smith, it's always a nice card, but sometimes it does feel like it could be a cut.
What I like about Armor Smith so much, though, is how nicely it plays with Battle Rage. It's so easy to get a damage on it and actually have it stick, like, to be able to Battle Rage from a bit more. That's, like, in the slower matchups and against the more aggressive decks, it's self-explanatory, right?
Seems pretty self-explanatory to me, as we're waiting to see the line of play from Taesang. Still no sign of that Murloc Knight that we're kind of on the lookout for. Every other control paladin we've seen, every other mid-range paladin has been running the Murloc Knight, but no sighting of it. I guess it could just be unlucky and not be drawn, but seems to be definitely at the bottom of his deck.
Question is here, Deckizz has a hand, you can get Emperor discount on the double frothing and the Warzone Commander, but he also has like these double shield blocks still in hand. It doesn't really care about if they get discounted.
I mean, you say that. He is at 15 health, and even though we've noted how little burst there is, he's starting to get a little bit susceptible, so...
It also interrupts with the Dr. Boom turn here. Like, if he wants to play Boom here, the Emperor is in play for another turn, and that could not end well for him.
And with 7 cards being discounted, very likely that there's, you know, a 0 or 1 mana way to deal with that Dr. Boom, and the Boom bots, you know, it's risky, but you can play turns like Grim Patrons and other kind of charge minions around the Boom bots if you are so inclined. So Dr. Boom doesn't feel great, but what are his other options?
If he wants to kill the Emperor, his only option is actually to do Equality, which seems like what he's going for. You don't feel great about it, but you can't let this Emperor stick in play.
But then the awkward thing is that he has nothing to play with Equality, so he's going to leave Emperor Thorison up for a Patron Warrior, and...
This is where it gets interesting.
This is, I mean, you say interesting, I think there is ungodly amounts of burst damage potentially coming through, especially with the board size. You don't even want to kill any minions. I mean, the Boom bots, I guess, but...
I would be very surprised if we didn't see a slam execute first of all on the Dr. Boom.
Goes without being said. Oh,
wait, what?
Okay.
I haven't done the math on this.
I mean, it's a lot. Let me tell you.
Yeah. I'm well aware that it's a lot, but I want to see how much of a lot this is.
So let's count the board size.
I think one of his Frothing Berserkers died because it's not glowing green.
Boy, you're right. He went for lethal.
Is it? I'm pretty sure this is not lethal. It affects. It's a roll. It affects 9 minions.
It would have been lethal. No, it should have been 26.
Oh, it would have. Oh yeah, it would have. You're totally right.
But why?
No, actually, it would be exact lethal because Boombot affected that math. But yeah, one of his Frothing dying is really unlucky there. But yeah, actually, that is really huge. One of his Boombots dying there.
But
one of his Frothing.
My question to you is why? Why did he feel pressured to do that against a control paladin list that's shown no semblance of burst when he had such a high quality hand, when he was going to get a second round of discounts with the Emperor Thorison? Why did he go off when he did?
I am not sure. Personally, I really like that you have double shield block that turn. You can kill the Dr. Boom. You can just go face or 5 more. I think Deckizz took an unnecessary risk, but then again, I don't blame him. He saw not a guaranteed lethal, but a very likely lethal on that turn, and maybe he got nervous and thought that something else could go wrong if he just waited one more turn, and like just something like a taunt would be hard to break through with that kind of hand. But I think it was a bit unnecessary, although it's very easy to say that after the got the unlucky Boom.
Well, I mean, again, my first reaction is why. That's why I'm opening up to
Yeah.
you. You're the one that has more knowledge in this matchup. It looked like he was in a really safe spot. Also looks like Emperor Thorison's somehow going to see 3 turns of value, which sounds crazy, but with a 3-card hand, when you've already seen double frothing and the Warsong Commander come out. But then Taesang's kind of in that weird spot where you're almost tempted to play Lothar because it's such a weird play that you just have no idea. Is it just another Warsong combo in hand?
Yeah. It's way less scary now after Frothings come out, but there's still like potential ways for Deckizz to win this game if he just picks up the second Warsong and Patrons. He just used one Whirlwind effect that turn, which is very, very relevant, which means there's plenty of Whirlwind effects left in his deck to go with the Patron.
And it's that question of, like, why would you take that line of play unless you also had a reload into another massive lethal hand like Warsong? Warsong, a single Whirlwind, the Grim Patron. We know that's not the fact. I mean, it's going to be confirmed when he has to use Slam just to remove the card. He's going to have a lot of draw next turn. Wow, that's some value. How do you feel about a card and 5 armor for your 0 mana?
And drawing a card, I would play that in all of my decks.
Well, we had this discussion before. No Nat Pagal, no Novice Engineer. Sorry.
Ah, sad times. The lay on hands here and just training with the Emperor seems like a great way of stabilizing. Your opponent just has 2 cards in hand, is kind of running out of things to do. It seems like the lay on hands will seal up this game, I'd say, for Taesang.
But Taesang, he's taken the defensive line to a fault. We've called him out for this particular series. You're still wondering, what are those 2 cards? Those 2 cards have been in his hand for at least 4 turns at this point. So, Outdoor Peacekeeper, do you consider it? But no, he does go for, sounds weird to say aggressive play of playing lay on hands, but a necessary one.
We see Black Knight in his Paladin too. He's really aiming for the taunt in this tournament, which seems to be such a great call.
Crazy to see Black Knight in both decks. We were surprised to see it in the Druid. I guess in Control Paladin, again, we're returning to a very old meta, and suddenly out of nowhere, Taesang has much less health than Deckizz.
Yes. Here we see, he picks up the Grim Patron, his last win condition, or well, he has 2 Grim Patrons left in his deck if I...
1 Warsong Commander, 2 Grim Patrons, of which 1 is in his hand, and no Frothing Berserkers.
So actually, if he equips the War Axe and hits face here, he sets up lethal with a Warsong commander draw. Because he puts him to 11, next turn he puts him to 8 with the Axe, and an Inner Rage Grim Patron plus the Patron it spawns is lethal. Then again, you would need to cantrip or naturally draw the Warsong commander for that to happen. But I still like it. I'm a big fan. Firebat is the person that teach me most of that. Just at any opportunity given, try to set up lethal.
Always looking to set up lethal is a good way to play out these tournament games, and Taesang, despite getting more benefit than he could possibly realize from the big turn, the double Frothing Berserker turn that went completely off the rails for Deckizz. Still, despite having this highly controlling deck, hasn't found out a way to threaten lethal. He had this problem against Neilio, but finally picked up a win. There's another Whirlwind effect, but the Warsong Commander is what he's definitely searching for.
Yeah, you're really afraid of just running out the Patron there, because this Patron is like you will probably die before you find your next Patron and can go for another lethal with Patrons.
You think he's scared though, Orange? Now that you've got this improved hero power, are you really incentivized to play 2 Silverhand Recruits and potentially add 2 damage? Or potentially add more Patrons to the Patron Warriors? Like, this is a really weird scenario where it feels like both Taesang and Deckizz are playing pretty scared.
I think as Taesang you have to go for it. You're at real low life total, and a Patron together with Warsong will probably just end the game even if you don't make tokens. You know that there's no Frothing Berserkers left,
That's
so you're
fair.
not scared of that aspect. So as Taesang you just play like very aggressively here, but as Deckizz, I would be scared of if I just run out this Patron without a Warsong commander that it might get cleared.
And he would have no win condition. Well, he has another Patron, but he has really no real draw mechanics. Is he going to do anything with the weapon?
He doesn't have enough time to set that up. Now you can afford to hit the Fire War Axe on the Justicar to buy more time because you drew the Unstable Ghoul, and with the Warsong Commander draw, that is exact mana to play them all.
Very nice card off the top. It is the true Silver Champion. Now he doesn't have to consider missing 4 damage with the piloted Shredder. He can just clear it very happily.
Also,
This Black Knight's not going to find much value, so, I mean, To me, it looks like true silver champion Black Knight, but is there any other line of play?
Nah, I think that's a very reasonable. He feels you for 2, which is pretty good. Just playing the 6-mana Yeti again, or if you want to throw down an altar, but personally I really do prefer the Black Knight here. It's one. I actually guess it's like 1 less power because you get hero powers into.
I do like how you talk about the Black Knight as a 6-mana Yeti.
It is what it is, and there is the Warzone commander, and that is lethal. That is lethal. Deckizz picks it up.
Wow.
And he was really considering if he would play Patron last turn, or if he would wait for the Warzone commander, and he gets rewarded.
All 4 cards necessary to set up the lethal as well.
Perfect 4 cards. And this puts Taesang in a really bad spot for the rest of the series, because it means that he cannot get a win with his handlock against the Patron Warrior, because the Patron Warriors is already through.
Oh boy, so Patron Warrior off the menu, and suddenly getting that win with handlock, that is the thing that has dogged Taesang all day. That is the reason that previously he did not bring handlock to tournaments. This was a tournament where he very much expected to see plenty of handlock himself. Didn't bring that trusty Zoo that's done him so much work, and now loses what is at least mathematically the most likely deck that you pick up a win with the handlock. The most favored matchup is that matchup against the Warrior. It's off the menu. Taesang in real dire straits. The first seed from Korea could go down in straight sets here at APAC.
Yeah, would be a shame, because Taesang is absolutely a really great player, but this tournament so far, being a bit inconsistent with the Warlock, getting a bit unlucky. Both the Patron Walls it had has been brutal, I have to say. Both the one we saw in the first game and this one. Like
whenever you're talking about 4 exact cards, when you have 4 cards in hand.
It was exactly that happened in the first one. 4 exact cards from 4 cards in hand. With the Warsong frothing double unstable ghoul. It's just...
And look, a lot of us at home are following and, you know, praying to the Blizzard gods that Patron no longer sees its time of day. I think Taesang is right up the top of that queue at this point.
Yeah, definitely.
Just Patron Warrior things happening here at the APAC Championships, but we're all tied up. That's the crazy thing, is that it feels like the momentum may be starting to shift away from Taesang, but it's 1-all. Patron Warrior is gone. That's been the deck that's done him the most damage. It's done early in this series. This needs to regroup and really modify his line of play with the handlock in particular. Will he stick with the deck that he's running now? Will he move to the handlock? We'll find out right now. He's going to stick with the Paladin,
and gets a good pair up against the Druid. Seems like this is a matchup that was very popular in the past before, when mid-range Paladin or Control Paladin was really popular, and has been like favored for Paladin. Actually, I remember when we were at Seat Story 3, I remember that Firebat just said that, yeah, in my lineup I'm playing Druid and I'm playing better Druid, and was referring to his Paladin as just better Druid.
To be clear, Seat Story 3, was that the tournament you won?
It was.
So you have clear memories of Seat Story 3, but not of what happened against Taesang. I'm gonna, you know...
Can you blame me? Really?
Well, you seem to remember the tournaments you win, so I'm gonna go back to those record books and just assume that you did not beat Taesang.
Okay, maybe true, maybe true. Someone will most likely inform me on Twitter about that.
Someone will confirm. Check out those VODs. Find out whether there's egg all over the face of poor Orange in this game. And speaking of egg, looks like the swipe may be drawn out.
Swipe already. You could wait 1 turn and play the Shredder into swipe, but then your opponent can just trade into the Shredder and your swipe might get bad. So I like the swipe here, although you're never really happy when you have the swipe phase in the early game, but it's really necessary against a deck with double Quartermaster.
And look, sometimes, you know, when the mass removal spell comes out, you know, you have that kind of sad situation. And when you had Quartermaster in hand, you're just like, oh, of course this would happen. And then he draws into another Quartermaster. That's just really the icing on the cake. The cherry on top is definitely when that happens. Gets the Justicar a lot earlier. We might actually see that played on curve this turn. Could have traded, but goes face with the Pilot Shredder.
I would be very surprised if this game was not decided by Silverhand recruits, because we're looking at the turn 6 Justicar into turn 7 Hero Power Quartermaster, and next turn Hero Power Quartermaster.
That sounds like a lot of dudes. The dude potential is very high.
Oh wait, is this the second time Taesang gets a Nat Pagel out
It
of
is the second time
pilot
we've
shredder?
seen a Pagel. I'm going to have to rack my brains of whether it was Taesang.
I'm pretty sure it was Taesang in the first match.
You're right, it was, and he won this game in the same matchup. It was Druid versus Paladin.
Oh my god, history repeats itself, it seems.
Does Pagel get removed, is the question.
Yeah,
Nat
this is
Pagel.
interesting.
He can remove the board. Can't play anything himself, but he can remove the board.
But then again, the Wrath Shade play and just Captain's Pirate into Loathed seems... I don't know, I like this better. You also get the same swipe.
Alright, Pagel.
Card here.
Can you catch one? The answer is no.
Nope. 0 out of 2. Not really that great for Pagel. So, yeah, I hear a power of
Actually, no,
Quartermaster
it's
here.
0 out of 1, because of course he doesn't draw a card.
Oh,
The turn he came out.
Didn't it die? Okay, I don't remember. But here we see a Quartermaster coming out at least for Taesang. Those Silverhand Recruits is gonna grow even more in value next turn when the second Quartermaster is probably coming out. Like having one of your Silverhand Recruits trade for an Ancient of Lore.
Let's talk about the damage, though. We're talking about 12 damage if none of these Silverhand Recruits are removed. It's hard to play around the double Quartermaster. It's definitely looking like a very strong possibility.
Yeah, I could definitely see him.
Oh,
getting
baby,
this going
that's
face.
one.
Oh,
Oh, boy.
it is just one more free, but then again, just one more free is not is pretty huge. Also, you get the weapon.
Also, another thing to consider,
Wait.
you might need to start thinking about playing around any death. Of course, innovate into combos is the only way to die. One of these 5/5s clears out the lore, go face with everything else.
Yeah, also, excuse me, it's actually not an extra one. He can't muster a battle in Quartermaster here because it doesn't
Oh.
have enough board space.
Well, it means he's got dude potential for days.
Yeah.
There goes the lore. That is a board that Druid has no hope in hell of removing.
Yeah, this is looking real rough for the Druid. I'm pretty sure that this is just game over right away.
And then we get to what is definitely the most exciting part of the series, where Taesang has 2 more chances
Yeah.
to win with Handlock.
Wait a second first. So we can send the Shade into a Quartermaster.
Okay.
I'm just thinking out loud here. Then we swipe one of the free-frees and keeper another free-free. That leaves our opponent with 7 power on board. And we have a 4-2 and a 2-4. That seems like the... oh, well, and Nat Pagel in play.
Don't forget Nat Pagel.
Do not forget the Mighty Fisher.
Or
Or it chooses silence. Oh, this is just better, right? Yeah, this is just better. My bad.
Pagel.
He just to still keep the Shade hidden, which I think makes sense, seeing how if he draws combo for the next turn, it is actually lethal.
So, Nat Pagel, he catches Tyrion Fordring.
That's a good one to catch. I would definitely advise him to play that, to not have combo be lethal, which, you know, your opponent is really representing that by not revealing the Shade.
Tyrion Fordring smashed down on the board. Maybe I was too quick in proclaiming the victory for Taesang, but that certainly seems to cement it. Wild Growth is a useless draw.
Yeah. The absolute, you're always really sad with draw Wild Growth on turn 9. You know, you're like, I just want a card I could use, but this...
Oh, he has cards that you can lose. It's a shame that he's dead.
Yeah.
Definitely cards you could throw out. Alright, let's see what he can do with this. I think he's just playing for funsies, but there's not that much damage on the board. This only changes 1 damage, though.
Yeah. It's,
Okay. He's alive.
he's alive, but he's not winning.
Okay. I'm going to note that down. There's still crazy combinations of cards. Innovate double combo somehow. Would be lethal in a couple of turns, I guess. The Dream. Nat Pagel, 2 for 2, by the way.
I think the Ashbringer is very good at not giving you a lot of time.
That's true. He's got a turn. A turn to get combo and still die, I guess. There's really not that many great options. Can heal himself, but... I mean, there's no reason not to build the board. You're against a Druid. You're happy to throw out threats. It's not the Patron Warrior situation. It's not a deck that has any sort of mass removal. So, look at this, actually, though. He's actually going to give out the Ashbringer, push himself up to 23. The dude potential still there.
Yeah.
Massive board. No more swipes left. No more hope for Deckizz. You have to think this game.
Yeah, that will not save him even a heal here would not be enough.
I concede.
Concede comes through. And I called it a little bit early, but this is the part where things get really interesting. Honestly, if Taesang decides to bring Handlock to this tournament and cannot pick up a win in 5 attempts, he doesn't deserve to go on to day 2.
I agree with that. I feel that at this point Taesang is really nervous. He brought Handlock, he was not very confident at first place, and now he's on the ropes. He has to get a win with this in 2 games.
It's crazy. Let's just analyze that point.
Yeah.
He's on the ropes, 2-1 up in his
exactly. I would still say that I think that Deckizz is a slight favorite to win this match because he got through with the Patron Warrior, and seeing how Taesang is not the most comfortable with Handlock.
And that's the thing, is that this is a top player. This is a guy who's done very well in the domestic scene. This is a guy who can definitely play strong Hearthstone, but you get this picture where if you bring a deck you're not comfortable in, and specifically when it's so dismantled in the series to a point where Neilio actually chose to field the Handlock Mirror rather than go Druid just because he wanted to get that Handlock Mirror over the way. Such was his confidence, and emphatically beat him in style that game as well. Handlock has been targeted by Neilio previously. It's been hidden despite having good matchups against Patron all throughout this series. And now Taesang, if he wants to stay in, this is the reality of Conquest. He has to find a win with this deck.
On the other hand, Deckizz is just 1 loss away from being all out on BlizzCon.
Great sets.
Yeah, now it's getting exciting.
Now it's getting exciting. Taesang on the ropes despite being ahead. Deckizz 1 loss away. We're going to come back. Let's find out who's going forward in the APAC Championship.
Here we go. We see Innovate and an Emperor Taesang. Actually, in this matchup, I could definitely see him keeping the Taesang with actually already having the Innovate, because Taesang is so hard for Handlock to deal with overall that an early Taesang could just run away with the game. But I would not be surprised either to see him mulligan it.
Keep with the Grove. Definitely a really big cut. Okay,
oh,
that was just some interesting ordering. Okay,
this is a spectator bug very commonly.
I've seen it before. I've seen someone mulligate Innovate. It was about 18 months ago. It was crazy to see. Okay, so loading in slowly.
Here we see if there's no Dark Bomb pickup next turn for Taesang. This is going to be a turn-free Emperor, and it's going to be a beating.
Yep, that is going to be... I mean, to be fair, the hand quality is pretty low, but 5 damage that early is just not something that Handlock's going to be able to do from hand. Wild Growth, though, is an interesting one.
Also, we see the double Twilight Drake now from Taesang too, so he can coin one and then play the other one, which puts up a real strong board, especially if Deckizz doesn't pick up a Keep Project Row.
So, in this situation, do you Wild Growth or do you Innovate out Thoris? And that's the question that was posed. Is it just easy, even though your 3 cards are 3 spells, Innovate Thoris?
I Innovate Emperor Thoris every time here. Handlock doesn't have efficient answer to an early Thoris, and getting it out here, you guarantee at least one more activation from it.
Okay, so the value proposition, the 6 mana reduction, probably 7 mana if we see a card come through that he can't play, means that it's very likely to get a lot of value. So he's going to coin out. I mean, it's probably going to be the Twilight Drake as we expected. No sign of the Keeper just yet, so definitely no way to power through this minion, barring a bit of an overextension in trading, although... Okay. Still doesn't have... He can double Wrath. Darnassus, but that seems like a big investment into a Twilight Drake.
We're so low on cards here, so I'm pretty sure that is just not a play that's available to you. You will need more cards to work with to win this game. So I'm pretty sure we have the Wrath for what, at least with the first one, see what we pick up, but then we have to decide from there.
Draws into...
Double Wrath for 1 and a Hero Power doesn't seem too bad.
Okay. So Mortal Coil obviously is not something he wants to see, but that's already after 2 turns of discount and the trade, so Thorison's certainly done its job in this case. Vindicates the use of the Innovate earlier in the game.
There we go, that's a very cheap hand.
Definitely.
And there's just a Hellfire to remove this if he wants to use it.
Hilariously, this seems to be the one deck that doesn't run Black Knight.
Yeah.
Very amusing, given that we saw Black Knight in both the Paladin and Druid decks, finding no value, no targets whatsoever.
Now just look at this curve. There is a Big Game Hunter to answer the Doctor Boom that's coming out from Deckizz, but
When we're talking about 3-card hands, pretty good 3-card
Yeah,
hands.
exactly. This is what you want to see.
Especially since, hilariously, his turn 8 play can be Ancient of War Swipe.
Emperor Taesang makes pretty significant things when it stays in play for over 2 turns.
Emperor Thorson has done a lot to the game of Hearthstone. I'm probably in the camp that says more good than bad. I love the fact that things like double Velen, Prophet Velen, Mind Blast combos are viable.
It opens up a lot of doors, but it's also like one of these cards that is very, very dangerous for the game to have, because you open up for, like, cards are not supposed to be that cheap, and you open up so many possibilities and things to do when everything gets a discount. But then again, that also breeds a lot of creativity.
Look, I agree with you in the immediate future. I agree with you when the card pool is where it is right now, when we have the amount of cards there is in Hearthstone. But eventually, there's going to be so many cards that feel like auto-includes, like this card, like Thorson, that there's going to be so many dangerous cards that you're going to have to make cuts somewhere, and I think things will change in the future. He's been really considering playing the Doomguard, eventually backs down, doesn't play it.
Oh, that's... it's, like, less good than it looks like, but it's such a huge draw here. Like,
He's devastated that he can't Ancient of War Swipe this turn.
I mean, you have so many options here. You can either Ancient of War to protect the Piloted Shredder from the Giant.
Are you in a big rush to kill the Mountain Giant, given that you know Big Game Hunter will find value?
I don't think you are, but then again, playing the Doctor Boom into the Mountain Giant is not, like, so great either, because, like, if your opponent sends the Mountain Giant into the Doctor Boom, which is, like, best case scenario for you, kinda, hey, you're not happy because it got a lot of value from a very BJable target. You don't know if there is another Mountain Giant in the hand or not, and you're kind of planning to not make Molten Giants a thing.
Molten Giants, you know, he was at 20 health. He put him down to 16 going into turn 6, so that part's fine. But if you do this trade, you know, you'll have to send a Boombot in. That's going to be some amount of damage going to face. So there's a lot of tough decisions from Deckizz and where he feels comfortable. He has Big Game Hunter, so he has the answer to a threat, but definitely not double Moltens or any sort of shenanigans coming through from Taesang.
Yeah, what looks to me here, Taesang has the possibility to clear the board with Death Shadow Flame here. But then he takes a lot of damage and goes really, really low without having any Molten. So.
Okay, if you had double Molten in hand, would that be the play?
Oh, absolutely. No question about it, because you could also taunt up with the Sunfury Protector afterwards, if the Boombots hit for 3 each or something.
That's not the reality he lives in.
And if they hit for less, that's just, you're happy because they hit for less.
There's the Big Game Hunter. It's not quite the Taunt Wall that we sometimes see come through from hand. It's only 6 health worth of power.
Oh, this looks like a really good swipe to me.
It looks like an excellent swipe, especially since we mentioned, crazily, Ancient of War Swipe is an 8-mana turn for the Druid.
Yeah. You're a little bit afraid because you still fear the Molten, so you want to be careful about these Boombots and where they hit.
Do you start with Boombots then?
Nice. I think you start with the swipe on the Mountain Giant, and then I send one Boombot and hope that it lands on the Sunfury Protector. If it doesn't, we have to evaluate from it.
Okay, so it starts with the swipe. That seemed like the most likely way. I was just thinking of ways to have more minions on board to not hit for 3 to face, which would be almost devastating. That's the hit he was looking for.
Yep.
You saw a little fist bump coming through from Deckizz. That's exactly what he wanted. Taesang doesn't have the Moltens to punish him, but still seems frustrated at that outcome. Is it just Ancient of War in Taunt form at this point?
Yeah.
Is there ever an argument for everyone's favorite Uproot? You told me just a couple of minutes ago that Emperor is not a susceptible card as a 5/5. Pretty sure Uproot has 5 health as well. The dream?
Yeah.
The dream is real!
We do see Uproot. Here we go.
Oh my goodness. Deckizz throws the Uproot. There's no Shadow Flammable target here.
The only answer to this Uproot is just throwing out the Doomguard and trading.
Oh, baby. Now, the Doomguard is a clean kill, but there's a lot of power left in this deck.
I didn't think we would see this today.
I am so happy that we saw this day. The Uproot comes through from Deckizz. He wants the win in his match, in this game, where if he loses his chance at going to BlizzCon. He chucks out the Uproot. And he has to Doomguard. That's the only answer.
Yeah.
And the Doomguard, man, there are definitely some minions you are not happy to lose, but there's no other choice. You will lose.
You need to do it, and you really hope you discard a Mountain Giant here, because playing a Doomguard and losing 2 cards...
Oh, the greetings comes through from Deckizz, the Australian, the New Zealand. That's what they're up to. There's what does he lose? Twilight Drake and Lothar.
Lothar
critically.
is a big one to lose.
Wow, but Innovate's not the draw you want to back it up.
And from here, you just have to go and hope there's no Molten Giants in hand.
Faces the place, you're not doing much damage, but yeah, you would have seen Molten at some point, you have to feel, so you're not playing around Moltens. Jiraxxus becomes online next turn. Usually not a big consideration, but just given the texture of this game might be significant. Man, Mortal Coil has a target, but of all the targets, this is not the one you want.
One interesting thing about this hand that we see here is that he doesn't really want to play the Void Caller because he needs to play Jiraxxus.
What does he want to play exactly?
In Jiraxxus form.
Come on, Orange. What card does he want to play?
I think we just want to play the Mountain Giant and hope we're alive. Although it is very risky. You know that your opponent didn't do much last turn, so your opponent has to have a quite a specific. You're kind of guessing on one Innervate being in the hand, and you're not quite sure on the second card, which is the Big Game Hunter.
I want to raise a question.
Yeah.
We talked about Taesang having problems leveraging his health total. You can be quite simple and say, well, he's at low health now on turn 8. That's a good thing. You know what seems to be the difference between Taesang and the other handlock players we've seen? As we see the Shadow Flame, takes 4 damage, brings out Jiraxxus, not really what he's looking for. Ancient of Lore, so many things that come through. But you know what really comes out to me, Orange? We do not see Taesang hero power, life tap, to any degree. He never seems to have either the right life total or the right hand size. His hand size has been very, very small for a turn 9 handlock.
Absolutely. I like the line he took eventually with the Void Caller Shadow Flame there. It's a little bit sad it doesn't get the heal out of your Jiraxxus, but it's what it is. And
I mean, comment on that. That's the thing that really strikes out to me, is that he didn't life tap, which meant he was at a high health total in previous games as handlock. In this game, he's gotten to the low life total, but that was at 3-4 cards. He concedes he is now 0-4 with the handlock, and if there wasn't PTSD before, he is definitely feeling the pinch. 0-4 with this deck and has to find the win, or he's out of the tournament.
And what is the deck that Deckizz has left now as his final one?
Oh, consult on notes.
One with Druid. Oh, it's the Warlock Mirror. It's a Handlock Mirror. A very skill-intense matchup between that is very, very. Because each player has so many decisions at every turn because the decks are trying to get as many cards in hand as possible. It's just very, very skill dependent on how you sequence the match and how you leverage your board, how much pressure you put on your opponent, what life total you want them on. It's just everything matters in that matchup, and there are so many factors.
And this, of course, is a matchup that Taesang has seen once today and was soundly beaten by Neo. That was the match where he was left with 25 health, 3 cards, and no way to play any of his tempo gaining cards. It's all about getting down to 13, 14, 15 health, and then having crazy tempo players of Molten Giant. One of those variables has never come to play, whether it was the hand size, whether it was the life total. Something's been off for Taesang in all 4 of his handlock games.
Yeah, I just want to say this, that in that game, Naylor was sitting safely at 8 health with Taesang on 25 and was not close. Naylor just had that game.
Well, it is time. Handlock Mirror. One of these players goes home. The other player stays in the tournament. Who will win? Taesang, first seed from Korea, against Deckizz from Australia. Only one man returning for tomorrow.
Here we go. Right on the bat, we see a Big Game Hunter in the starting hand of Deckizz.
That's not being mulligan back.
Absolutely not. There's also Iron Beak Owl, which is answer to Void Caller and
there is
Drake.
A horrible, horrible hand for Taesang.
Yeah, this is absolutely not what you want to see.
The full mulligan.
Oh, God.
Oh, and it's all of the things.
Yeah, now this is the hand you want in the... the only... Oh, Jesus.
Would you say that Thorison improved his hand?
It certainly did. This leads into... If you only can find something to play on turn 3 here, he has, you know, everything that you want. He has the Mountain Giant, he can coin the Emperor, and he has all the answers to potential threats from Taesang.
What is Taesang looking for? You have to feel like a Void Call is probably the best draw, because at least you have a 3-4 body.
Mountain Giant is the best draw, even
it,
though...
though?
Well, Taesang doesn't know that.
I was saying
there's a
with
big
full
game
information,
hunter.
we
Full
would have to
information.
say that Void Call is the only 4-drop that doesn't just immediately get completely dissipated.
Yeah, Void Color would be the best one, looking at the hands.
But let's move back to, you know, this situation where we're looking from the perspective. Mountain Giant's definitely what you want to be developing on 4. You have 3 other Giants in the deck. It's a big game hunter. It's always a possibility. You're expecting a 1 of. It certainly finds its target, although 10 cards. Deckizz has multiple lines of play. Do you just go for the big game hunter every day of the week?
I think so. There are ways to get punished if you leave that Mountain Giant up.
You know what the other factor is? 10 cards in the hand next turn, coin into Thorison, 8-card discount.
Yeah. Pretty strong. Also a very good hand to get discount on. Like, you're never unhappy to get Mortal Coil discounted. Getting the Mal'Ganis discounted is really, really good.
And look at Taesang's hand. There's nothing happening there at all.
No, it's a really, really sad hand to look at. He needs to pick something up and he just doesn't find it. One thing that is what makes me think that Taesang might have a little bit of a chance here is that is actually running the double Shadow Flame, which is very, very relevant.
Yeah, we mentioned
in this
that. We
matchup.
only saw it towards the end of the previous time, or one of the times that he's played Hanlong. I said previous time, of course. It's been 4 matches of Hanlong from Taesang already. This is a matchup where it's relevant because Molten Giant Shadow Flame often costs 5, 6 mana rather than the big cost. But we talked about this 8 mana reduction onto Molten Giants, onto Mountain Giants, onto so many threats. Now he has the cleanest 1 mana kill onto the likes of a Twilight Drake. Feels like Deckizz has all the answers, but this is a seesaw matchup, and things can change quickly.
Yeah, one thing that some people may have not noticed there that is very, very interesting and something I love from Deckizz, he didn't attack with his big game hunter at all that turn. He just left it there. He figured that since Taesang is not playing threats, last turn he just lifetabbed and played an Ancient Watcher, very indicating that he doesn't have a big threat in hand. Figured that what does he have in hand if he doesn't play threats on turn 5, and he figured that he probably has to sit on at least 1 Molten Giant. Like, there are just not other cards he could have.
I'm actually really impressed. That's a really astute observation. It's one of those situations where he has access to 6 mana. He was actually at 10 cards as well, so he couldn't even tap. And if he didn't have a 4 mana threat and he didn't have the ability to tap, this is the reality that he has to make what is a very weak play just to have something on the board.
Yeah, we saw Taesang do something there that I do not really agree with. He silenced the Emperor and then he taunted both his minions.
What else was he to do then?
No, instead he could have silenced the Watcher and Defender and kill Emperor with the Watcher.
Okay.
Which I think is slightly better because then you don't give the opportunity for Deckizz to counter Defender of Argus you or something.
It sounds like both those plays were equally susceptible to Mortal Coil, so maybe that was...
Oh yeah, they are, but the one is slightly better against one more card, so it's, you know.
And with that Owl being played, what better card to find than Twilight Drake? Because you've just seen the main answer to that be used.
Yeah, very, very good pickup here. We also, just look at these very, very cheap Giants in the Deckizz hand. He has next turn he will have a 2 mana Mountain Giant.
Oh, you know.
A 2 mana 8/8 seems like a pretty decent price for an 8/8. What do you say?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Can I have some more?
I want all of the 2 mana 8/8s.
Just the... I mean, both of them have massive hand sizes, but... I mean, to pardon my French, Taesang has a load of crap in his hand, and Deckizz has everything.
By the looks of it, yes. We need to, as Taesang, we need something really good here. Mountain Giant is something really, really good. It is actually,
The Shadow Flame.
Yeah, I'm considering if there, in any universe, if we can keep the Mountain Giant in our hand for a Shadow Flame, but with having the Watcher too, I don't think it's possible to do that.
Let's think about this play. Is it possible that you just Shadow Flame the Watcher and leave a 4/1 Watcher on the board and a 4/2 Twilight Drake?
I think I like developing the Giant here.
Shadow Flame is an option. That's why I just mentioned the Shadow Flame there would also keep that Mountain Giant in your hand. So my idea was Ancient Watcher, Shadow Flame, trade the Drake. You only have a 4/1 Ancient Watcher that's not silenced, so can't attack. So that seems fine.
Yeah, the more thing about that, sure, your Giants get a little bit more expensive, but I definitely like it. Huh. Oh,
Not feeling like the Shadow Flame's necessary.
that's surprising. I was sure we were gonna see.
Oh, we're going to
something
see a Shadow Flame. This time it's going to be from Taesang, as
Yeah.
far as I can tell.
I wonder if he decides to hit Deckizz down to 14, though. I would not think so, but it might be well for him to take a risk here.
There's the question. Taesang, it feels like leveraging his hand size and his health total has been the big thing that's escaped him in these handlock matches. You don't want to bring a handlock down to that value. Don't want to bring him down to 14, but it feels weak to just Shadow Flame an 8/8 minion that has the ability to attack, and also what do you combine that Shadow Flame with? Because you don't have a 4-mana threat. He's been begging for 4-mana threats, not even knowing that something like Iron Beak Owl and a free Mortal Coil has been a factor. He's going to tap.
Yeah. Interesting thing is that Taesang was 6 damage of lethal that turn with the Dark Pump Doomguard. That's one of the things when you play Demon Handlock and play things like the Doomguard, that you can present lethal without activating the Molten Giants, which is huge.
So let's keep track. It is double Shadow Flame from this list. It's 1 Shadow Flame down, so he can be a bit more liberal with his Shadow Flames. It's 1 Shadow Flame down. The world's cheapest Molten Giant
Yeah.
comes through. More threats.
And we know that Taesang had trouble dealing with Twilight Drake and like last time, so there's probably not going to be a difference with there
okay.
we go. Straight from the top.
And Big Game Hunter, Lotheb looks like a potential play here. Can develop another threat finally with the removal that he's been doing a good job keeping on top of. Has no way to deal with the Twilight Drake, though. That's been the thing that's a bit frustrating. Maybe it's going to be Sun Fury Protector onto just the Ancient Watcher to like delay the kill onto the Big Game Hunter, but interesting to see how he takes this line of play, Taesang, because he has a lot of answers in his hand.
Yeah. See, start off with a Big Game Hunter. That is like
That's being played.
it's a no-brainer. And then yeah, we see the Lotheb too. I like this line even more because the thing with Lotheb versus Twilight Drake is like on the turn where where you play Lotheb, it's actually protected from Mortal Coil against the Twilight Drake because, well, it costs way too much mana. But with the Defender of Argus pickup, it's actually a very clean kill for Deckizz if he chooses to go for it. But instead he just chooses to develop the boom after just seeing the Big Game Hunter here.
The Dr. Boom, the Ancient Watcher, has a silence in hand, so that's of course 4 damage if he needs to find reach from hand.
Yeah.
Another ball clear required. Only 1 AoE in hand this time. It is the Hellfire. Has multiple different ways to taunt Argus and also the Sun Fury. This is the match-winning play. I feel like this is the important turn. What does Taesang do to deal with a massive board, but with lots of answers and important cards in his hand?
Yeah, this definitely will be one of the more interesting turns of this game, and like one of the harder turns to play because you have so many decisions.
There's so many variables to consider. Your health total, the enemy health total, walking into something like a Shadow Flame that Deckizz has been holding on to since, I believe, turn 2. Been holding on to. That's one of the... it's crazy that he still has, I believe, 4 cards that were discounted by Thorson. Hellfire comes through. He's happy to take damage.
Yeah, he goes to 2, and now he can Dark Bomb and play a Molten Giant if he wants to.
He cannot taunt up. It's not relevant though, not expecting burst, so what does he do with his last 6 mana?
He can't taunt up if he plays Dark Bomb Molten Giant.
Really considering his options.
He gets even... okay, I see.
Doesn't develop Molten this time. Remember, he hasn't seen a Shadow Flame, so he's definitely afraid of Shadow Flame in some fashion. I believe he's seen both Mountain Giants, so not that many easy ways to do it. Finally finds a Twilight Drake, and of course instantly clears. He's been holding on. That's been burning a hole in his pocket for a very long time.
Since turn 1, I think.
He's had it since turn 1. It was discounted a very long time ago. Healbots are basically dead in this matchup at this point in time.
Yeah, it doesn't do much until until a point in the game where it's probably already decided in one way or another.
Well, it does nothing till all the Molten Giants are accounted for, basically.
Exactly. Now we see from Deckizz has some interesting options here, what he wants to develop to this board. White color is the one that makes most sense to me. And the one he will go with.
He's not ever overextending. You notice that there's always been mana for Sun Fury, there's been mana for other cards. He hasn't been overextending. No active damage on the board, no Owl to even have 4 damage outreach at 15 health. Does this turn begin with a tap? That seems to be the most likely thing.
Yeah, I would say that getting a tap here when you can taunt up and even potential heal bot if you want to is certainly a thing you want to do. Especially when your opponent is holding like 8 cards himself, card count is definitely important.
What he is not to know is that Molten Giant and Shadow Flame are in hand. They've been in hand for so damn long. The answers have been in hand since, as you mentioned, turn 1, turn 2, turn 3 is when he had Owl, Free Mortal Coil, Shadow Flame. He's had these cards for a very long time. Taesang, will we show some improvement with this deck? Will he not walk into a massive board because there is certainly potential for one if he overextends, if he puts out too many of his key threats.
This looks to be a lot of them.
This is a big board being created. This big board is going to come crashing down.
Let's see, what can we do here?
He can do a lot of things.
Deckizz. Yeah, there are so many options. I'm just trying to go through them all and see what is the best line of play here. The thing is that you have to be worried about that the Void Color, if you go for the Shadow Flame and that Void Color pops out the Mulganis, you're in like pretty bad shape. You would like to be able to pop the Void Color before using the Shadow Flame, but it doesn't seem like there's any way for him to do that.
Has he used both Owls? Obviously he's used at least one. One is in the field of play. I'm thinking in my head whether he's used both Owls.
Even if he hasn't, it's like he needs to draw it from the life tap, which is
True.
Risky when your opponent has such a huge board and a potential Mulganis from the Void Color. We know that Taesang doesn't have Mulganis in hand, but there's always the fear of that.
Well, there's only one line of play that makes sense. The one we alluded to before. It's going to be the Shadow Flame. Doesn't have to kill off his own Void Caller. Doomguard's actually a pretty big card, but Sun Fury Protector's still in hand. Man, this is the traditional handlock mirror. This is finally one that's really reminds me of, I hazard to say good old days, but at least high-level handlock versus handlock play. It felt like nearly a really blew out Taesang. He's adjusted better here.
Yeah.
Definitely taken a better line of play. Both of them are at very susceptible life totals. There is a taunt in hand. How does Taesang play out this turn?
We've seen one Owl. We didn't see an Owl on the Void Color last turn. I think that Sylvanas and Sun Fury Protector and potentially no attacks with the Doomguard is a strong line of play he can take here.
The Ancient Watcher doesn't have the ability to attack, so it isn't a moot point. If he does not attack, then it isn't susceptible to Hellfire like it would be if he does choose to attack with it, so he's not under any real worries in that particular regard. He's considering just playing Jiraxxus at his mouse over that particular card.
I don't blame him for that. Getting a Jiraxxus out earlier than your opponent is pretty important.
And let's talk about next turn.
Yeah, next turn you can
Infernal, Sylvanas, Sunfire, Sunfury. That's a really nice 10-mana combo. So it is going to be the Jiraxxus. What will he do with the Doomguard? That's the question. What will he do?
Pretty sure we'll see no attacks from it.
Correct. Oh boy.
Oh, that is.
Let's talk about damage here. 5, 10, 13 damage reach. Doesn't have enough. Wait.
That
think
is
about
really
this.
close.
Now, if he does trade in, thinking about other ways he can do things, I don't believe there's any way to get lethal in this particular situation.
So trade that in, get Malvanis out and Doomguard. Plus, no, I don't think there is.
If there was a way to Mortal Coil his own Void Caller, I think there might have been a play there with attacking phase, Hellfiring, and getting out
Yeah,
the Doomguard, but doesn't have that option.
that would have been lethal. We see with the Malganis light up here, considering to trade with the Doomguard, or if you should just go for the face.
Doesn't have to play around anything anymore.
Yeah, I like the face play. Make Taesang come up with the answers for this board, which is not very easy. There's a really big void color there. That is threatening to pull out the Doomguard and also Malganis, which your BGH already used.
This is panic stations for Taesang, to say the least. He doesn't have an answer to Malganis. He doesn't have a way to somehow steal the Malganis with the Sylvanas. He could have developed that last turn. He went for one of the winning plays. Jiraxxus definitely had potential for him. The 10-mana play we talked about, he can still do that. it just is quite susceptible when he only has 8 health behind him.
Yeah, this is... Taesang has been in a really rough spot here. And I'm pretty sure that there is some way for Deckizz to set up lethal next turn.
I feel like lethal's being screamed at the top of the lungs in multiple different ways. Hellfire, Argus, a Doomguard, many different things can happen.
There's also the Sylvanas to...
The Sylvanas factor. Someone's going to have to push through it.
Like, a guaranteed lethal when a Sylvanas might steal a Mal'Ganis is not the easiest thing, but...
Oh boy. Is it time? We're looking for an owl to change things.
It's not an owl. That is a Hellfire, though.
Hellfire takes 2 minions away, remember. Hellfire
Yes.
means the 50-50 potential comes through.
I'm not smart enough to do the exact math if there's any guaranteed
So he needs to
lethal
kill
here.
off his Mal'Ganis is what he needs to do. So as far as I can tell, he needs to trade the Mal'Ganis into Doomguard and then have it die to the Hellfire AoE.
That would make sense. Oh yeah, then Sun Fury into... Okay.
What's it going to steal? Doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter at all. But does he have lethal? It has to trade
Yeah, it's lethal with the Doomguard.
with the Doomguard.
That will be game. And Deckizz is going through to tomorrow. And Taesang is getting knocked out of the road to BlizzCon.
And Taesang, he did the tech choice. He brought Handlock to this event despite multiple times saying, I'm so much more confident on the Zoo Warlock. This is what he said in the interview after he qualified for BlizzCon. They quizzed him about it. He said, this is the deck that I'm more comfortable with. He brought Handlock to go for that big swing. And remember, we've seen 3 Paladins, 3 Control Paladins being played. So this is a tournament that has seen many surprising tech decisions.
Yeah.
And this is not one that paid off. 0 and 5 is his result on the Handlock. And this means that Taesang, the highly thought of first seed from Korea, goes home on the first day.
Huge congrats to Deckizz, though. He played really well in that match and been playing really well so far. Huge congrats to him going through to tomorrow and gets to fight for another chance at getting to BlizzCon.
Yeah, Australian hopes are still there. Deckizz still in the tournament. Taesang is out, and we will come back with our last elimination match of the day. Thank you for joining us here. And for Orange, I am Papa Smithy. We're back. Final elimination match after this break.